But if you begin to realize that in order for you to create abundance, that you have to generate abundance, you may change the way you think and feel. And if you keep thinking certain thoughts and you keep feeling certain emotions,
I'm your host, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Let's begin.
this probably has been the most common request that we've gotten in reference to this teleclass topic in the last few months. I mean, we cover health quite a bit, we cover creating reality quite a bit, we cover a lot of different things around the body and the environment, but specifically, most people have been asking about this concept of how to create abundance. And I've always been hesitant talking about this because so many people have so many definitions of abundance, and I know that if I give certain things or certain clues or certain ideas or certain concepts, that many people won't take the time to do it. And if you don't do anything, you don't get anything. And so I'm going to lay out a kind of a model here of what I've learned over the years. So let's start off by taking a moment and thinking about what your definition personally of abundance is. Now, I want you to know that my definition over many years has changed dramatically, and even to this day, it continues to change. So I used to have a definition that abundance was to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, as many times as I want. It just meant an absolute state of freedom without any concerns. Some people say that abundance to them is having everything they need and plus some more, like they have more than they need. So an abundance is more than you need. Some people say that all their needs are met, which is a solid form of abundance that the universe provides. And then some people have this idea that abundance has something to do with having or getting things. Now, I don't have a problem with any of those things, but I'm going to ask each person that listens to this teleclass or who's live on the teleclass is to come up with a working definition of abundance and take your time at some point in the next couple days and write it out. Once you know what your definition of abundance is, it makes sense, then you can get it. If you don't have a clear definition of abundance, then you're not going to get clear outcomes or solid outcomes. So, number one, get clear on your definition of abundance. Number two, it's so important for you to begin to change your perception of the world. And this is so important because most people's beliefs and perceptions, for those of you who know my work, are based on past experiences. So you have a series of failures, you have a series of incidences or experiences in your life that have you draw conclusions about money, about things, about wealth, and then you feel lack, and then you see people who have it, and then you judge them, and the more you judge them, the more you're separate by polarity from having what you want. But I'm going to ask everybody that if you change the way you look at things, I swear to you, things will change. So let's talk about this, because people think that when they have something, then they are abundant. And that's actually backwards thinking. The world is an abundant, very friendly, very providing, very fruitful place. And if you can change your perception from lack, thinking that you're separate from having what you want, that everything is already here, all you have to do is walk into it or step into it. By changing your perception about of the world or your perception about abundance, you should start to see things change, because our reality is built on our beliefs and our perceptions. So think about this. Do you think that when you have something, then you're abundant? Which means if you don't have something, by very definition, means then you're not abundant. But that's not the definition of abundance. Abundance is that you already have that state of being within you. Now, this is the third thing. If you can define your state of being on a moment-to-moment basis, you will begin to understand that you don't create abundance, you generate abundance. And most people generate lack, most people generate separation, most people generate victimization, most people generate fear, resistance, judgment. That's what they're generating majority of the time. But if you begin to realize that in order for you to create abundance, that you have to generate abundance, you may change the way you think and feel. And if you keep thinking certain thoughts and you keep feeling certain emotions, the way you think and the way you feel will become who you are. Now, I've always said that thoughts, the electrical charge, and feelings are the magnetic charge. And that combination of thinking and feeling, your state of being, is producing a forecast. You are broadcasting information into the quantum field. So if a person spends 10 minutes of their day generating abundance, and then they spend the remainder of their day feeling like a victim or feeling separate from what they want, then their vibration isn't in alignment with their future. And there has to be a vibrational match between the energy of abundance and that particular reality that you're going to walk into. So there are so many, when we're living by the state of fear or separation or judgment or resistance or victimization or lack or whatever, the problem with this is that we go about creating the world we want in very limited ways. We push, we wish, we try, we force, we control outcomes in our life because that's the only way we think we can get what we want. And because we're looking for it in a specific way, the moment we're looking for it, we're defining reality with our senses again. And if we're defining reality with our senses, our view of the world is based on our past, present reality. In other words, people move into a state of abundance and then they start looking to see if their bank account has changed. They start looking for things because the majority of the time their perception moves back into a state of lack or a state of resistance. But if you were able to change your energy, which means when you change your energy, you are moving into a vibrational state that's in alignment with the future. Now you are moving from the sensory-based reality where you have to go through 3 dimensions to get what you want, dragging your body around and working for a living and saving money and doing all of that is what most people do in their normal life, to a quantum-based reality which is based on nonsense, which is based on not using your senses to define reality. You're using your energy and your vibration and your state of being from a moment-to-moment basis to call reality to you, to bring reality to you. So then think about this. When you're experiencing those states of lack, it means that you don't have what you want, and which means you are not in that state of being. You are actually in the old state of being, which is the same idealism that you are in lack or you're separate from what you want. So then when people do this, they start looking for the things they want in their life. They start trying to predict when it's going to happen. And once they start looking and they realize that they don't have it, of course, they go back to their old state. And so the paradox is, if you keep changing your energy and practice changing your energy, and you do it initially with your meditations and you do it initially with moving into a new state of being with your eyes closed, then the next step is in your waking day, practice doing it with your eyes open. And so what energy are you living your life with? Are you living your life in a state of passion? Are you living your life in a state of bliss? Are you living in a state of inspiration? Are you living in a state of trust or invincibility? Because if you're in these elevated states, it means then you're at a faster vibration. And the faster the vibration, the higher the energy, the more you are a magnet to creating evidence in your life. So in these elevated states, when you're passionate and you're blissful and you're inspired, it's difficult to analyze and think. Because the moment you start analyzing and thinking from these elevated states, you lose it. The moment you do it, you start to lose it. So take away from this, define your state of being, practice your state of being, move into that state of being where you are generating abundance. Then pay attention to when you fall from grace, when you feel victimized, when you feel lack, when you feel separation. And it doesn't mean you have to stay there. Become conscious and realize when you're in those states, you have very limited ways to get things to happen in your life. You are matter trying to change matter. Once you're able to lock into that state and it's becoming familiar to you, practice it with your eyes open. Practice it in your car. Practice moving into that state of being when you're taking a shower, when you're taking a bath, when you're sitting down for a minute or standing on line. practice moving into that state of being on a moment-to-moment basis. And by doing that, you are beginning to create affluence, which we'll talk about in a bit, which means you're not going anywhere to get what you want. You are bringing that experience to you. So now, this is another key element with most people. When they practice abundance and they move into that state of being, they lose the present moment quite a bit. And it's going to require you staying present. When you're present in your creative process, you are connected to something greater. When you are impatient, when you are frustrated, when you are controlling, when you are trying to make things happen your way, it means it's not happening fast enough, and you are trying to overlay or create some next moment immediately to take away the feeling of lack or the feeling of impatience or the feeling of frustration. Now, why is this relevant? Because all potentials in the quantum field exist in the present moment, and because the brain is an anticipation machine, most people are always saying, okay, well, now I generated a state of abundance, so where is it? And they start getting impatient. And then when it doesn't happen, they start getting frustrated. And then when they get frustrated, they start accusing and blaming other people. And it's never their fault or never their responsibility. It's always somebody else outside of them. So practice staying present in your day. And if you're moving into a state of abundance, you have to be present in order to do that. If you notice you start doing that, stop for a moment and reconnect again. So, what are the emotions then that disconnect us? Well, it's very obvious. All of those emotions are derived from the hormones of stress. And when we're living in stress, we are living as materialists. And we will go back to defining reality with our senses. And when we do that, we get in trouble because we only have limited resources to get what we want. So people compete, they manipulate, they cheat, they lie, they do whatever they can to get what they want because they feel disconnected from that quantum field. So, in your waking day, in order for you to begin to create effects in your life, you have to keep the energy vibration of abundance at a constant. And the more you keep it as a constant, and the more you've made the connection in your mind, by doing that, you'll begin to see a flow happening in your life. You'll begin to see some things moving and changing. That's the sign there's a vibrational match between you and where you're going. So then, if you can notice the moments and the thoughts that limit your vibration, then you can begin to make significant changes. And what are those? Most people say, they don't do this consciously a lot of times. They say, well, it's not here yet, I don't see it. So the moment they don't see it, they feel lack, and when they feel lack, they get discouraged, and then they don't believe it. Or sometimes things don't go exactly how you want, and I've had this happen to me so many times. Things go wrong, and when they go wrong, your intentions are thwarted, and then people give up, or they draw a conclusion, or they say, it isn't working. They have expectations sometimes that are unfulfilled because they wanted it to work out a certain way, and it doesn't work out a certain way. People start comparing themselves to others, or they start judging others who have what they want, and those states of judgment, of course, stops the flow. So, point is, allow. Start flowing down the river. And if you can flow, and you can trust, and you can stay loose and stay free, you are going to keep your energy moving. It's when you start judging and resisting, and when you start comparing and analyzing, that you block the flow. Allow yourself moments where you just allow things to unfold, and it may not be the way you expect. That just means you're in the unknown.